in Lesson 3, Parameters and Return Practice. Following the conclusion of this lesson, you should be able to correctly set up a parameter in a function, correctly set up a return value in a function, and write comments to explain the function, purpose, parameters, and return values. Are you ready? And let's get started. Okay, so it's a warm-up. Let's think about what is one reason why parameters and return values are useful. What is one way you think programming with parameters and return values may make programming or debugging more challenging? Pause for a moment and think about that. Write that down in your notebook. Okay, so one reason why parameters and return values are useful, well, I can write a general purpose function and then send it the specifics. I can tell it what file I want it to work on, what item I want it to work on, and I can tell it some specifics, color, size, time, things like that I want it to do. Something that could make it programming or debugging more challenging. First off, programming, I've got to make sure I know what type of data is being expected and in what order. Order matters because when I call something, I have to pass the information in the exact order that it's being expected. If I pass it out of order, it'll get very confused. Okay. The other thing is you've got a handshake, if you will. Make sure that you know what you're doing. Make sure what types of values it is. And that can be confusing because I might pass all the right information, but in the wrong order. That could also make the debugging more difficult. Quite a few challenges, but overall, the pros way outweigh the cons of using subroutines, methods, functions, procedures. They're all called something a little bit different, same thing in different programming languages. Now, parameters and return values allow us to write code that is neater, works in a larger number of scenarios. And we're going to have to practice reading, writing, and debugging code like this. However, because it does work a little differently than other programs that we've written, we've gotten used to writing, it's going to take a little bit of time. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. Our activity this time is, you guessed it, when we're practicing, we're going to be debugging. We're going to know what we want something to do. And then we got to see, what does it really do? And does it always happen that way? And how do we think about fixing it? And we're going to try some solutions, and then we're going to document as we go. And we're going to learn about functions and parameters. Now, debugging functions with parameters and return. Notice here, I have a function, doubler number, and I return number times 2. Console.log, doubler 10, doubler 100. Use the console.log to call functions with parameters and see how calling them with different values returns different values. Okay, so before you put it into an equation, call the function, make sure the function's working right. Use the speed slider to slow down the code so you can see what's happening and what's happening where. Now, in levels 2 through 6, these levels involve functions with parameters and return values working in the console. Level 2, you're going to call a function multiple times with a single parameter. Level 3, you're going to allow a pattern to choose a random complement from a list that is concatenated with a name passed through a parameter. Level 4 is the same as level 2, except now the functions use return values. Again, students, you will follow a pattern given in another working function. Level 5, you're going to write a function that returns the season a month is in. By this point, you should be noticing the type of commenting that is happening above each function. Just above each function, it previews the function, tells you what's happening, what the inputs are, what the outputs are. This format previews how you will need to write comments for libraries later on in this unit. So it's a foreshadowing. Pay attention to it. It'll help you later. Level 6, this level traverses or goes through the list to find the longest and the shortest words. Parameters and return values are both used. In level 7 and 8, you continue practicing now working with apps. In level 7, you're going to debug and comment an ordering app. Completing this level will require you to read programs that use functions with parameters and returns very carefully. So you're going to have to slow down. Level 8, you're going to return to the complement code, this time reworking it into an app. Again, you're going to write your own comments, this time including comments for a return value. You will also complete the update screen function, which calls both of the functions with parameters. In level 9, you're going to do a quick practice with mod operator, and level 10 is simply answering a test type question with the mod. Okay, so this whole thing should take you anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes. So you want to navigate to Unit 7, Lesson 3, Level 2, and begin working. Again, 2 through 9, you're working with the code, making modifications and debugging. Level 10 is simply answering a multiple choice question, the kind that you'll see on tests, quizzes, and on the AP exam. So go ahead, and you can either go ahead and do the work, or wait for a moment and I'll go through the wrap up, which is just how could using parameters and return help you write programs collaboratively? Well, if you need a program to do multiple different things, you could assign each person something to do. One person could write the code to check a username and password. Another one could write the code to do some calculations. Another one could write the code to format a report. The parameters, you would have to pass back and forth what information one needed. Think about your cake baking example. Okay, somebody could write the code to purchase the ingredients. Another person could write the code about how to combine the ingredients. Another person about baking it. Another person about icing it or frosting it. Okay, so parameters and return values allow you to piecemeal out code, and people just work on a specific task of the code. All right, on your mark, get set, go do your practice, and when you're done with the practice, we'll get ready to make.